Call this meeting to order of the Lincoln County Board of Education on Tuesday, September the 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. The county office to order. Good evening and welcome those that are in attendance and joining us live stream. This time I want to ask Board Member Cartwright to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cartwright. As you can see or hear, Board President Bell isn't able to be with us this evening, and Board Member Mosteller is joining us by phone. Are you there, Robert?
Yes, sir.
All right. Moving on to item 2 is public comment. Did we have anybody sign up for public comment? Okay. Then we'll keep going to item number 3, presentations and reports. And looks like tonight we have reports and a presentation on test results. Joining us is our curriculum director, Ms. Shortridge.
Back again.
Before we get started real quickly, I just want to give a shout out to Boone Memorial. I don't know whether you've noticed in the hallway or not, or on the fields yet, but Boone Memorial supplied every middle school and high school football player with Guardian cap to go over the helmets for a safety device. So big shout out. Thank you to them for thinking of us and trying to help keep our kids safe.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. Frank, will you send a letter to them from all of us of how much we appreciate that?
Absolutely.
All right. So what I'll be referring to is the handout you have in your folder. I pulled all of this data from Zoom, so it is through accountability. If you flip it to the first page, it gives the picture according to Zoom of the entire Lincoln County schools in mathematics, reading, and science for spring during the 2023-24 school year. And so with that, we've shown a growth of 2% in reading. We really thought it was going to hit 3%, but once accountability kind of took out some of the pieces, it was at 2% and then a 1% growth at math. At times it looked pretty good rolling in, but that's what, when it all rolled to Zoom, that's what we showed as growth. I gave you on the back a trajectory, which kind of shows that we're slowly climbing back up to where we were pre-COVID. And I wanted to point out some key highlights first, as far as some good things that we have going on. The first thing is, according to SAT School Day, the high school grew 7% just this past year on SAT School Day in reading. This was a new test format. It was all digital. It was different kind of rigor. So for our kids to grow that much says a lot about the high school and what they've really accomplished over a 3-year time period, which is, if you look at 3 years, it's a 14% growth according to Zoom. So that's huge. We did drop on SAT School Day for the high school. We dropped 3% in math. When we really dove in, some of that can be credited to, we had that vacancy in Algebra 1. We used that virtual curriculum, and it may not have been the best fit for our students. So I feel like that's going to correct itself. I feel very confident in what the math department's doing. We now have certified teachers in the math, or they are retired certified math teachers. So that's the first time in a while. I think that's kind of
She had a real
here.
math teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we had a training today. We're very confident in seeing that growth as well. But what their English department's doing there, they've grown leaps and bounds. And, they're around 36 now rankings. I want to say that they're in the top 30 for scores in ELA for, you know, when you compare them against other high schools in the state. So that's saying something. We've got some good things happening. The next page is another positive I wanted to kind of play on, and that is Hearts pre-K8. I wanted to highlight for you their growth in 2 years. They've grown 18% in math and 14% in ALA as a school. In some grade levels, they're as high as 60% proficient, which is higher than the state average. You can see their trajectory. They're climbing that mountain and they're climbing it fast. So I just, you know, I feel like we have some really good things happening, and I want to make sure that we're highlighting those as well.
Do we have, I mean, is the science, I know it's mostly reading, so is that why we have a little bit of a problem with it? And, you know, the science seems like it slides down on us sometimes.
Well, you know, they adopted a new textbook. It's been about 2 years. And I'll be honest, you know, I think a lot of the focus is more reading and math based, and we've
hands-on.
got to remember not to forget
Yeah,
that that's a
hands-on.
crucial part. In 2510, they also recently changed to where it's now based on embedding those standards in K through 5. And then they also talk about they want kids to have 50% of their activities hands-on.
Yes.
And that's a piece I feel like maybe we were missing in the science classroom as well. That change just happened July 1.
That is so good in about everything, but I suspect, you know, even in math and science, it is very, very the best thing we can do to let them see those concepts that we just read about and tell them how to do it. If they can really see that and hands-on see it.
And that's, we took that into account as a curriculum team. So when we designed the summer schools this year, we designed it with a purpose. Every student had intervention, reading and math. And we ensured that we did a training. We prepared them. That's, I think, something that's kind of new. But we also brought in Ms. Thompson from the State Department, and she trained them on STEM, because when we realized, you know, and so those are things that we're trying to remind everyone to incorporate STEAM activities. There's lots of resources, you know, out there. You can also request for the WVU extension to come in and model activities. And that's something that we've been.
Do we
you know,
have
sharing.
good attendance from the students at those summer academies and summer?
We had great attendance this
Yeah.
year. Mr. Gaines could give you probably a better number. We combined schools. If you remember, there were times that we even had to have extra teachers because
Yes.
we had so many kids. But we had a great turnout at all locations. We always have a great turnout at Hearts. So
Now, on our times, Joni, do we bring them in for breakfast, then they have lunch and then they go home?
yes,
Okay.
9 to 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Teachers reported 8.
Maybe Mr. Gaines could give us an update on how many went to each center and we could, last spring, and so we could begin to see.
And we do a pre and post.
Yeah.
Too, sorry. So. One other school I wanted to highlight really quick was Midway. It's the next school in your handout. Midway Elementary grew 10% in
I
math.
saw that.
They grew 15% in reading in 2 years. Their special ed subgroups, which aren't on your chart,
Mhm.
grew 14 to 15% per grade level. And that's where we reached out to their teachers there. We would love to use them as a model to send at some of the other teachers from other schools in the county.
Yeah, she could
Because
maybe do an in-service with everybody
they are
else.
growing and it's all intervention based. They are doing it with fidelity and they're using all the right resources.
Oh, yeah.
So
that-
they're
That's
doing
so
great
much
things.
hands-on in that program too. I really think that helps when the kids and the other teachers and their own teachers are all there together. They're able
And
to
that
hear.
they really knew their data there.
Yeah,
When I met with them last year, those teachers came, you could tell, I mean, they really knew their data of each individual kid. And that's, you know, that's part of the process too, is
I think
knowing.
that's the main
Yeah.
underlying thing, to know those kids and where they are.
Yeah. And then if you flip, I gave you, there's, Hamlin's, I won't talk too much. I'll just let you look. So there's the individual, schools. So you've got Hamlin, and then you have Guyan Valley, and you have Duval, and then West Hamlin.
Well, the reading and math for West Hamlin is a lot alike, isn't it? It's on the scores.
Yes.
And they look good.
And so the last handout I gave you is kind of what I wanted to talk about as far as what are we doing next? Like, what's our plans? As you know, House Bill 3035 rolled out, science of reading, science of numeracy is getting ready to roll mid-October. And so we had created a handout for some of the schools. We've met with every school individually to talk about what's the science of reading throughout the school year and then the summer and again this fall. But I want to draw your attention to the why. If you look at the data boxes, I clipped that from Zoom and I gave you 2 schools that did intervention with Fidelity last year. We just looked at some of their data, but this is 2 schools, 3rd grade. And I gave you 3rd grade because in 2 years, those red students are the students we're going to have to retain according to House Bill 3035. Okay. So the first 2 schools, they did intervention with Fidelity. And then the last school is a school that, they have pockets of good and things, but maybe there's not Fidelity. Last year we did K-3. We didn't do K-5 in most schools, but so that's the difference. If you really look at kind of how important it is for Fidelity, for follow through, using the right resources, knowing your kids, knowing your data. That's huge. Okay. In some schools, it's a 40% deficit. That's huge. And that means that 40% more of kids can read compared to other schools. The other data I gave you is according to iReady, which is our universal screener. We're getting ready to do our benchmarks. I'll be back to present on those, but it's kind of hard to see. But if you look at the bottom 4 rows, that is the vocab and comprehension domains, and that is what we use to inform our decisions this past year when we were talking about interventions and practices. Our kids aren't growing in vocab and comprehension, which tells us it's not a teacher problem. It's more than likely a content or curriculum problem. And so what we did with that is we went back to the drawing board and we've decided that they're growing until 3rd grade. Well, we don't think it's a coincidence that we're stopping our intervention in 3rd grade. So what we're doing is we are increasing our intervention for K-5 students.
For next year?
No, right
Right
now.
now?
So K-5 students are getting intervention, reading-based intervention, research-based in the general ed population. And then what we also realize is that our special ed students aren't growing. There's a lot of beginning readers. And so we are implementing K-8 this year, corrective reading, which is a research-based reading program for those struggling learners.
In every special ed class.
In every school.
Yeah.
Yes, the models look different. And so with that, we knew we got to go back and revamp what our schedules look like.
Yeah.
So over the summer, there were some tears and lots of conversations, but our principals were really troopers. Our staff has been great. Their teachers, their aides are even involved. We had a wonderful turnout for our summer academy. And so we did what's called a student-centered master schedule. Some people we offered Jennifer Ashlock if they were willing, and then others, felt like they could handle it and they did it themselves. But every school is doing a walked intervention and it's a very student-centered master schedule. And so I gave you an example on the back of a student-centered master schedule. And so the pink is intervention. Okay. So every kid is getting intervention. That includes our special ed population in 4th and 5th grade, which is new. That's a new K-3, not a lot changed. We're just hoping to be even more, have more accuracy and really more rigor. We also have increased the instructional strategies where we're using things like the pre-teaching that's so important when you read research on reading instruction. So those students are getting instructional routines every day. It's a pre-teaching model. they were trained in, and then they also get 15 to 20 minutes of independent reading or time and text, which is critical for applying those skills they're learning in intervention. And we're bringing back, again, reminding, grammar, language, writing. We can't forget that, because writing is, 11%-ish of our ELA score. And that's a focus that also we realize that we need to kind of hone in on.
Joni, I'm getting old,
Mhm.
so I'm gonna have to ask you if you'll later this week sometime make this a little bit.
I can walk across.
No, you
and
just wait. I'll
I
come
have
down
a
and get it.
Huge, we have huge that we carry around for each school.
Yeah.
I can get you a sample. We
Well,
have
that's-
touch screen.
That's kind of hard.
Yeah.
for me.
I just tried to make it
Yeah, fit.
economical
Yeah,
for you guys.
And, looking at it from a standpoint of a principal, sometimes they don't like you messing with their schedule. But we looked at this, and Joni's team had done an incredible amount of work on this year. And when you look at the pink as being intervention, and the yellow and the orange, that's also different special interventions as well. Making sure that we do it with fidelity, that everybody's doing the same thing. And the way I explained it to principals was, year one, I need everybody to be speaking the same language. So I know that regardless of which school I go to, they're all gonna be doing the same thing. And then we can look at the data. Year two, the principal can make that fit their schedule. But year one, in order to get accurate data, everybody has to be doing the same thing at the same time. So we know what we're looking for when we go in and do our walkthroughs and our look fors. But everyone is bought in. And I think once we see that, if you the proof's in the pudding. If you look at the K3 scores that had done, the school that had done this program with fidelity, there were drastic gains. So we're just making sure that we're following suit and just extending it to make sure that we see the same gains or similar gains.
Any questions?
No?
We're asking, it's been a lot to ask of teachers, and it's been very
Yeah,
stressful.
I know.
And at the end of the day, they always come back and say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes if it's what's best for kids. And I think they truly believe it's best for kids. We've got, we're hoping it's rolling without, any kind of hiccups by October is our goal. We've started getting them in the groups. Some schools already are rolling. It depends on how comfortable they are in the
Mhm.
process in general. We're, as a central office, we're going to be doing what's called look fors, where we offer more support than hopefully they've had in the past, where we're popping in, we're just checking, are they pulling kids? Do they have any questions? Do they need anything? We don't want them sitting in those classrooms and needing workbooks,
and feel
that
like
kind of
they're
thing.
by themselves and need some
Yeah,
answers.
but right now we're still, getting resources out. There's some
Yeah.
schools that they may have to make photocopies until the next shipment comes in, because we wanted to be mindful of our spending and making sure we get, because it's a lot of different materials on different levels. It's not just a one size fits all.
Yeah.
And we realize there are kids that this might not work for. There are other programs, we've encouraged schools that they can implement. Wilson's reading program is a great program, especially for dyslexia, and that fits, for the House bill, that's the intervention piece. But, we know it's not going to fit everyone's needs, but our hope is it's going to fit the majority of the needs, and then we can reassess for those kids that are the kind of the.
And it seems like when we have those programs and we have the trainings for the teachers, when I was a teacher, I felt like that helped me so much to understand those children. Even the higher level kids, it helped you to see what you could do with all of them who are in your classroom. And it was a new way to look at it, because in college, they don't do that with us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else that was very almost energizing at times was we provided training at times for service personnel, like our ECAT and special ed aides, but nothing to this magnitude. And we've not asked them to take on
Too
as
much.
big of a curriculum role as we are right now.
Yeah.
Because we want those groups small and it takes all hands on deck. But the positivity and the energy and their excitement to learn this and to know now they're given the tools of how to help the kids, it's been great.
Yeah.
So not just the teachers, but the service and the ECAT, and especially, I mean, it takes everyone. Takes a
It's just
village.
model, everyone's the teacher.
Yeah, the whole school,
Yeah,
from the cooks and the janitors on up, it really is,
right.
yeah.
very, very important piece.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
I
thank
just
you.
want to say, I mean, the growth, it may not be the numbers we like to see, but it's still growth. That's a
It's
key,
right.
that's a key word, means we're going in the right direction.
That's right.
So, we've got the results. Looks like you have a plan to attack the areas that need addressed. Execute the plan. Next September, we'll see what worked and what didn't.
That's what we're hoping in 2 to
hoping
3
that's
years,
what
that
we're
people are calling and saying,
Yeah, are
hey,
you all
how
doing
did
down
you
there?
do this? That's that's what our hope.
Yeah, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Did you have a question, Mr. Cartwright?
No, no.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, moving on to item 4, administrative. Is there any discussion?
Now, what happened to our dugout?
It's the one that was burned.
I didn't know we had one that burned. I'm not much of a football go-to person, you know, so you didn't tell me about that.
Baseball dugout.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When's that expected to be? They put a timeline?
Not yet. The low bid come in, just getting approval for them to go ahead and get the ball rolling on it, and they'll give us a.
I think they're about to spring, I think they're going to start about the third week of the spring.
Okay.
It'd take 3 weeks or something roughly.
Yeah.
If they get it well.
If there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Cartwright, second by Burns. All in favor?
Aye.
4. Vote passes 4-0.
Mr. Mosteller, if you could speak up just a little bit when you do your vote, please.
Are we on with
Are you
it?
still with us?
I hope so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you would just please just speak up on the vote. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, finance. Is there any discussion?
Gotta pay the bills.
If no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Burns, motion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Yes, 4-0. Moving on to item 6, personnel. Any discussion? If no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Burns, motion.
Second.
Cartwright, second. All in favor? Carries 4-0. Moving on to item 7, comments and concerns.
The Duval update, it's really don't have a whole lot different to tell you other than they've moved more dirt. So that's still going on. I just want to again, bring it back to, what Ms. Shortridge was talking about there with what we're doing with this intervention program. I'm excited for our kids because it seems like the staffs have bought in and are willing to jump in there and try it. From everyone from the aides to the ECATs to go in and I was at West Hamlin today and, they were pulling kids out doing a practice run, pulling kids out, making sure they had the correct group and, and kids have the opportunity to graduate out of that group, if you will. If they master the subject area, they'll move on to the next, bump up a notch. So they were excited about that, getting that moving. We were at, over at Guyan Valley and the same thing was going on. They were starting on their benchmark, and they were utilizing the same format that they would use if we were doing, the end of the year test in order to make sure these kids knew, this is my testing group, this is what we have to do, this is how long it's going to be. So they're actually practicing what it's going to be like to take the test at the end of the year. And I think that's the right way to go with that, so that kids know what to expect. And, so just, excited about seeing some things happen. We're nowhere near where I want to be. None of us will say that, but, we are moving in the right direction, but I want us to, I'm very competitive. I want us to move a little quicker. And I think with this program and especially the hard work that, the Shortridge curriculum team has put into this, I think we'll see some good growth.
I had just one thing, we had the ESC meeting last Wednesday and, Charlene Coburn had some people there with, math counts. If you've heard of them or not, they're looking for coaches. And they're looking to put a coach, what they're hoping it is, put a coach in each middle school. And they've just raised that from $1,500 a year to $2,000 a year, what they'll pay their coaches, so.
So they want to take them from the staff that's already there at the school and
Well,
make it a,
if I understood it correctly, what other counties are doing is they're kind of marrying that with Math Field Day and that program.
Okay.
So it may be something we want to look into. I would suggest maybe getting Ms. Coburn out here to do that presentation and go over it with everyone. That seemed like there's a lot of upside, and if there's any downside, I didn't catch that. But it seemed like a pretty good program for students and for the people that are already teaching math anyway, get compensated a little.
what grades does that include?
It's middle school.
Middle school, okay.
I think it runs October through February.
Okay.
Yeah, October through February.
Maybe she could come and talk to us some.
I think it'd be worth
I do
it.
too, yeah.
I'll contact her.
Any other comments, concerns? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Cartwright, Burns. And we are adjourned until Tuesday, September 17th at 7 PM. At 7:27 PM.